Hey guys, well, one of the things we did while we were down south, down in Florida, I was pretty stoked about the amount of stuff that we got for you guys, but one thing was kind of unique. One day we went up and visited our good friend, Mr. Dr. Thomas Walczyk, and Thomas decided to spend the day with us, him and his staff, all his students and stuff like that. They did some amazing presentations for us, and he's going to work with me down the road and putting out a bunch of videos for you guys as well, pertaining to some different subjects and topics that are more his field of expertise. Really looking forward to that. But some of the things that Thomas took us around to see, he took us to the Florida Museum of Natural History. And in that museum, we did two really cool things. One was super cool, right up my alley. We're going to show you that in a different video. But the second one was a total hidden surprise, completely out of my element. It wasn't something that the Biggs would ever think he'd ever be doing. You guys know Biggs' fondness for birds just doesn't exist. Fondness is for birds is right here. Goes in the tummy, goes in there, into the tummy. Love birds. Birds are delicious. But one thing Biggs never thought about is we went into this conservatory, this rainforest display, and I basically brought out the camera right away because I was inspired by seeing all this foliage and all this stuff with all the vivariums and terrariums and things that we've got being built right now or on the process of being built. It was like absolute awesome for inspiration. And the thing that was the coolest, it was completely unexpected, was this was a butterfly conservatory in a rainforest, and there was butterflies everywhere in this place. So Biggs might not do a lot of videos on birds, but here's Biggs tripping and dancing through the rainforest with the butterflies. Enjoy. Hey guys, I'm down in Florida. I'm in Gainesville at the Natural History Museum. I think we're in the butterfly exhibit, so you might see them flying around us here, but with all the terrarium building and everything that we got coming up, I think this is a wonderful place to get some inspiration. So let's do a little video tour and show off some of the beautiful botanicals and some of the different plants and stuff like that we do inspiration for doing a vivarium. Stick tuned.
The Butterfly Rainforest exhibit is just one portion of the amazing Florida Museum of Natural History, which is on the University of Florida's campus. It's absolutely a true botanist's paradise. The diversity of the tropical plant life is incredible. This magical place is a 6,500 square foot screened-in enclosure, and it's exposed to typical Florida weather conditions, which will then in turn result in a far more naturalized environment for the butterflies and the collection of the wonderful tropical plants. At any given time, this exhibit contains upwards of 50 individual species of tropical butterflies and moths, species totaling some 1,000 individual specimens. Butterflies and moths are brought from all over the world as chrysalises, and they are released into the exhibit after they emerge as adults. And at the end, it's towards the end of the presentation, you'll see some of the wall of butterflies collected from all over the world, but you'll also in turn see their lab with all the chrysalises and the hatchings and stuff like that. Every day, at 2 p.m., they release more live butterflies into the exhibit. As amazing as some of these butterflies are, butterflies typically only live 2 to 5 weeks for their total life. So sit back, enjoy, and take a look at something I never thought I'd be interested in, butterflies. Here's a nice blue morpho at the back there. But all this wonderful tropical plant foliage. If this doesn't give you inspiration for building a vivarium, I really don't know what would. All the different bromeliads and epiphytes growing on all the limbs of all the tropical trees, all the tropical ferns. Here's one of the feeding stations for the butterflies. These are all the blue morpho butterflies. drab on the outside and spectacular on the inside. The lush growing split leaf philodendrons, I believe it is Philodendron Saloom. Beautiful tropical plant. Actually grows more as a vine than it does actually a true potted plant. So often when people grow them in the house, they just get too large. They're absolutely beautiful. There's Thomas taking pictures of butterflies. Whoever thought I'd be interested in taking pictures of butterflies, but I guess if your host takes you there and you see these things up close, some of them are pretty spectacular. The only reason I knew the blue morphos, we saw them in Colombia when my parents lived there for several years, so I knew that one. There's a little description of it there on the sign. But that's the only one that I know outside of our native monarch butterfly. So that's the only why I gave you only the names of the one. Now, Thomas kept us on a fairly quick course here. We were running around all day doing stuff. So I didn't really I thought about this as kind of a last minute thing when I was in there. I didn't really set out to say, hey, let's do a video on a butterfly conservatory. But more was about the plants. I love just watching all the different diversity, the different mixes of the foliages. The butterflies were just kind of like the cherry on top. You could spend hours in here, just taking it all in. Probably no more relaxing place to be than to sit in here. They've got some nice water features. You can't hear it because I've taken the audio portion out, but the sound of the waterfalls running all the time in there, it gives a nice calming effect. And I bet if you go here once a month, it would look different because you'd have different plants flowering at different times. There's a nice big orchid there to the left. More of the philodendrons and algamiras. All sorts of epiphytes and bromeliads. There's another big orchid. Looks like a big encyclia or a brassia. There's a little river that runs in the base here, like a creek. Comes from the waterfall and spills across, and I'm sure it's just probably recirculated back. That I believe I asked about, and this plant that's pictured here in the middle is a bromeliad, and it is massive. It's the size of a small car. No idea what plant it is, no idea what species it is, but I really wasn't aware that most of them, there was any of them that got really that big. Different textures and color. This is a very unique leaf shape. It felt like velvet. Now the problem with, I use these as inspiration in going to build these vivariums and terrariums, but when you see the size of some of these leaves and some of these plants, that becomes a greater challenge because some of these things just get far too large for one to use in a small terrarium. But same as the aquariums and people doing nano aquariums and nano tanks, use nature as a way of kind of setting the standard, and then we try and find ways and means of finding smaller versions of stuff or stuff that at least looks like it to give us that imagery of what we're trying to achieve. I love the look of all the ferns in the shade of all the trees. And there's the big butterfly walls. This is actually at the entrance before you go into the conservatory itself. And they're all broken down by country. And there's all the different butterflies from each region, Australia, South Pacific, American tropics, and so forth. And this thing goes the whole length of the wall. It's absolutely massive. There's no way I could have taken video of this to show you all the species and stuff. It would have been there for days. Now don't get all excited. Don't think Biggs is turning soft and Biggs is going, hey, oh, it's all about butterflies now. That's not the case. But I will give props where props are due. This was pretty cool. This is what I was telling you guys about all the chrysalises. They bring them in and they mount them. And then when the butterflies hatch out, I guess they feed them. And once the butterflies are adult, I guess, then they release them out into the exhibit. The coolest thing was these moths. These are all atlas moths. These are those gigantic moths. Now, to me, I thought they were dead. I thought they were dead, dried specimens. No, these are all alive, and they're all sleeping because they're active at night. And they're huge. I wish I should have put my hand there. But that big atlas moth that we just passed, that was bigger than my hand. They have this going constantly to be able to maintain so they can always release X amount of butterflies into the exhibit. Well, I can't thank Thomas and my host Sandy Moore for such a wonderful day. This was just one of the wonderful things that we did that day. And I hope you enjoyed my little trip through the butterfly house. Thanks for watching, guys. Take care.